Where was my father? He wasn't there when I was born. He wasn't there when I turned 5. He wasn't there when I graduated. Hey.
Where was my father?
Where was my father? The question doesn't have an answer. Hey.
Where was my father?
I've been carrying it for 34 years, yeah.
Where was my father?
Nobody at church has an answer either.
Where was my father?
And the ache doesn't leave when you're older. I was born in 1990 at Mount Sinai Hospital. My mother filled out the birth certificate alone. The father line has a name on it. The name belongs to somebody I met 3 times. The first time was at my aunt's funeral when I was 7. He said he was sorry he hadn't been around. He said he was gonna be better. He didn't call for the next 4 years. The second time was at my high school graduation. Somebody had told him he showed up drunk. He tried to hug me in front of my mother. My mother didn't say anything, neither did I. The third time was 5 years ago. He called me out of nowhere and asked if I would meet him for coffee. I said yes, because I was a Christian and I thought forgiveness required it. We met at a Starbucks in Yonkers. He talked about his other kids for an hour. He didn't ask a single question about me. I paid for the coffee. I haven't heard from him since. That's my complete relationship with the man on the birth certificate. Where was my father?
Where was my father?
Where was my father? The question doesn't have an answer.
Where was my father?
I've been carrying it for 34 years.
Where was my father?
Nobody at church has an answer either.
Where was my father?
And the ache doesn't leave when you're older. Yeah, I'm not writing this song to shame him. I don't have the energy for that anymore. I'm writing this song cause the question is real. And most Christian rappers been afraid to ask it out loud. The church is language for reconciliation. The church has language for forgiveness. The church has language for honor thy father and mother. The church doesn't have language for the man who was never there in the first place. You can't reconcile with somebody who never showed up. You can't be honest with somebody who won't sit down with you and honor thy father. Assumes there was a father to honor. The commandment doesn't have a footnote for the version of father that leaves before you can remember his face. And so I've been trying to honor a ghost for 34 years, and the honoring hasn't fixed the ache. The ache is still where it was when I was 6. Waiting for the phone to ring, and the phone doesn't ring. Where was my father?
Where was my father?
Where was my father? The question doesn't have an answer.
Where was my father?
I've been carrying it for 34 years.
Where was my father?
Nobody at church has an answer either.
Where was my father?
And the ache doesn't leave when you're older. The album has to start with the question that has no answer. Where was my father? The next 6 tracks answer around it. None of them answer the question itself. The chair was always there. Nobody sat in it. I stopped noticing when I was 12 and started noticing again when I was 20. The empty chair at the elementary school Christmas concert. The empty chair at the Little League Championship. The empty chair at the middle school honor roll ceremony. The empty chair at the science fair when I won 2nd place. The empty chair at the 8th grade graduation. The empty chair at the freshman year football game. The empty chair at every parent-teacher conference for 12 years. My mother came to every single one. My mother is the reason the chair being empty didn't destroy me, but the chair was still empty. And I noticed, even when I stopped talking about it, I noticed every time a dad in the crowd cheered for his son,
I noticed
every time I saw a father hug his kid after a game,
I noticed
the empty chair was a full character in my childhood. And nobody wrote a Christian rap song about the empty chair, because the empty chair is not sensational. The empty chair is just what happened.
The empty chair.
Nobody talks about the empty chair.
The empty chair.
Every graduation had one there.
The empty chair.
I stopped looking after middle school,
The empty
but
chair.
the not my mother was worth twice what any father would have been at those events.
The empty chair,
but the chair was still the actual sin. I got married at 29 to a woman I loved. The empty chair at the wedding was a specific empty chair. My mother sat next to it during the ceremony. Nobody had told her to save the seat, she just did. I asked her about it after the reception. She said she'd been saving that seat for 29 years and she wasn't gonna stop just because he wasn't gonna fill it. That's my mother, that's the woman who filled the space he left without ever complaining about the feeling. And I looked at my new wife across the reception hall and I made a specific decision that night. The empty chair stops with me. My kids will never look at an empty chair at their events. I don't care what the cost is, I don't care what the sacrifice is. The chair will not be empty. That's the specific commitment I made at my wedding reception. Nobody knew I made it, I didn't tell anyone until now.
the empty chair,
Nobody talks about the empty chair.
the empty chair,
Every graduation had one nap.
the empty chair,
I stopped looking after middle school,
the empty
but the
chair,
not looking was another rule. I was making because looking hurt,
the empty chair,
and my mother was worth twice what any father would have been at those events.
the empty chair,
But the chair was still the actual sin. My daughter is 2 years old now. She has never seen an empty chair at anything. That commitment is my witness. The empty chair. And I broke the pattern at the reception.
The way I said what I said to my wife, the way I said what I said to my son.
That was him. That was my father coming out of my mouth. Tuesday night, I was tired from working. My son was asking me the same question for the 4th time. Dad, can we go to the park tomorrow? He's 4. The repetition is developmental. I know that intellectually. Emotionally, I was exhausted and I snapped. I said, stop asking me the same question. Just stop. I saw his face, and I saw my father and myself. The exact tone, the exact dismissiveness, the exact way of being present physically and absent emotionally in the same breath. That was him. That was the man who wasn't there when I graduated. That was the man who paid for coffee once in 34 years. That was the man whose absence I've been writing a whole album about. And he came out of my mouth at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. My son cried, and I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and I did not recognize myself. And this is the thing nobody tells you about being the son of an absent father. You don't just carry his absence, you carry his presence too. The specific ways he was present when he was present. The submissiveness, the temper, the way he treated my mother when he decided to show up. Those are still in me, sitting in my nervous system, waiting for the moment I'm tired enough to let him out. And Tuesday night at 8 p.m. I let him out, and I became him for 4 seconds. And my son will remember that moment. And I have to figure out how to make sure it's the exception and not the pattern. Because if I don't figure that out, I will become him. Not by choice, by exhaustion, by failure to stay vigilant, by assuming the cycle broke because I decided it broke. The cycle doesn't break because you decide. The cycle breaks because you catch it every time it tries to show up. And Tuesday, I didn't catch it, and that's why this song exists. I apologize to my son. Yeah, he forgave me the way 4-year-olds forgive. That's not enough. The cycle is still trying to come in my mouth. I have to keep watching. Psalm 68 verse 5. A father of the fatherless, yeah. A father of the fatherless, and the judge of the widows is God in his holy habitation. Psalm 68 68 verse 5 is the specific verse for this specific wound. David wrote it in the middle of a coronation psalm, celebrating God's kingship. And in the middle of the coronation celebration, David stopped and named a specific attribute of God that a lot of coronation psalms would not have named. A father of the fatherless, a judge of the widows, is God in his holy habitation. David chose to include this specific line in this specific psalm because David knew what most kings didn't have to know, that God specifically identifies with the categories of people who had no earthly protection under ancient Near Eastern law. Orphans and widows had no legal standing, though they was required to feed them. Nobody was required to defend them. Nobody was required to advocate for them. They were the categorical vulnerable. And in the middle of a psalm celebrating God being king, David named that God is specifically the father of the ones with no father. The theology is that God does what the earthly father was supposed to do, not metaphorically. Actually, the tenderness that should have come from a father comes from God. The presence that should have come from a father comes from God. The protection that should have come from a father comes from God. And when the earthly father fails to provide those things, God fills the specific role that was vacated. This doesn't erase the ache. The ache is real, the absence is real, the empty chair is real. Psalm 68:5 doesn't make the ache go away. Psalm 68:5 names who filled the chair when nobody else did, and who has been filling it my whole life, whether I knew it was him or not. Every safe place I found as a kid was God being a father to me, even before I knew him. The neighbor who let me stay for dinner when my mother worked late, God. The coach who noticed I was struggling and pulled me aside, God. The Sunday school teacher who remembered my birthday, God. The pastor who let me sit in the back of his office when I needed to be somewhere quiet, God. The older kid who taught me how to shake, God. The math teacher who stayed after class to help me even when she didn't have to, God. Every one of those people was Psalm 68:5 in action. God was fathering me through the community he placed around me, and I didn't know the theological name for what was happening. I just knew I was being cared for by people who had no biological obligation to me. That is what Psalm 68:5 actually looks like when it operates. God fathers the fatherless through the specific people he places in their path. And when I look back at my childhood, I can name the specific faces of the specific people who were God being a father to me. And that is the actual answer to track one's question. Where was my father? God was my father, not metaphorically, through the specific people who fill the specific gaps. Psalm 68 verse 5, a father of the fatherless. The album pivots here. The question from track 1 doesn't get erased. The question gets answered around. The ache is still real, and so is the father who was there the whole time. Psalm 68 verse 5, a father of the fatherless. The chain doesn't break on its own. The chain breaks because you catch it every time it tries to come through you. And catching it is a full-time job. I go to counseling every other Wednesday at 3 p.m. My therapist is a black man in his 50s named Dr. Reeves. Dr. Reeves has been working with men like me for 22 years. Men whose fathers weren't there. Men trying to figure out how not to become their fathers. Dr. Reeves says the chain doesn't break at a moment. The chain breaks in 10,000 small choices. The choice to pause before you snap at your kid. The choice to sit down and listen when you rather leave the room. The choice to apologize when you were wrong. The choice to be emotionally present when you're exhausted. The choice to notice your own pattern before you inflict it on somebody else. Every one of those choices is the chain breaking. And every one of those choices requires that you're paying attention. The chain doesn't break because you had one big revelation. The chain breaks because you had 10,000 small commitments that accumulated into a different pattern. And the accumulation takes years. Breaking the chain. The work is small and daily. Breaking the chain. No dramatic testimony, maybe. Just Tuesday, choosing patience when I wanna yell. Just Wednesday, choosing presence when I wanna bail. Just Thursday apologizing when I was the one wrong. Breaking the chain, and the work is a lifelong song. Not victory, vigilance. Dr. Reeves says that's the mode, and the accumulation is the actual code. Some things I've had to learn from scratch that other men learn from their fathers. How to sit with my kid without being on my phone. How to have a conversation about feelings without shutting down. How to make eye contact when I'm being told something hard. How to be silent without the silence being punishment. How to celebrate small wins without deflecting the celebration. Every one of those is a skill, and every one of those is a skill I didn't inherit. So I've been building the skills from watching another man. Uncle Ronald taught me some, Pastor Michael taught me some, Dr. Reeves is teaching me some now. My wife is teaching me some, books are teaching me some, YouTube videos of therapists explaining attachment styles are teaching me some. I'm in my age of church who are breaking the chains are teaching me some. I'm building fatherhood from spare parts because I didn't inherit the assembled version. And every day I add another spare part to the assembly. And every day the assembly looks a little more like a functioning father. Breaking the chain. The work is small and daily. Breaking the chain. No dramatic testimony, maybe. Just Tuesday, choosing patience when I wanna yell. Just Wednesday, choosing presence when I wanna bail. Just Thursday, apologizing when I was the one wrong. Breaking the chain. And the work is a lifelong song. Not victory, vigilance. Dr. Reeves says that's the mode, and the accumulation is the actual code. Dr. Reeves said something last week I've been sitting with. He said, breaking the chain is not a decision. Breaking the chain is a lifestyle. I'ma think about that for the rest of my life. Breaking the chain. The accumulation is the actual gospel. Let me name them, because if I don't name them, the song doesn't do its job. Let me name the specific men who were God to me. And the man on the birth certificate wasn't. God showed up instead. Through the men he put in my path, God showed up instead. Uncle Ronald taught me the math of being a man. How to fix things, how to work hard. God showed up instead. Pastor Michael was the yardstick I used to know what being a father meant. God showed up instead. Coach Williams gave the actual dent in the wall of my life that a father was supposed to make. God showed up instead. And the community was their actual tape. Uncle Ronald, my mother's oldest brother. He lived 4 blocks over. He came to every one of my football games from 8th grade through senior year. He never talked about it, he just showed up. He drove me to my first job interview at 16. He taught me how to change my oil at 17. He taught me how to talk to a woman with respect at 18. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding at 29 because there was nobody else to do it. Uncle Ronald didn't have a father either. Uncle Ronald knew what he was doing for me because somebody had done it for him 40 years earlier. The lineage of black men picking up younger black men when the biological chain breaks. It's one of the most consistent operations of Psalm 68:5 in the black community. Uncle Ronald was Psalm 68:5 for me before I could name the verse. Uncle Ronald was the father God gave me, not by biology, by faithfulness. God showed up instead. Through the men he put in my path, God showed up instead. Uncle Ronald taught me the math of being a man. How to fix things, how to work hard. God showed up instead. Pastor Michael was the yardstick I used to know what being a father meant. God showed up instead. Coach Williams gave the actual dent in the water of my life that a father was supposed to make. God showed up instead. And the community was there. Pastor Michael pastored Grace Baptist for 22 years. I was 15. The first time he pulled me into his office, he said he'd been watching me for a year. He said he saw something in me. He said he was gonna invest in me, whether I wanted investment or not. He met with me every other Wednesday for 6 years. Through high school, through college, through the years. I was drifting from the church, he never stopped meeting with me. When I got baptized at 23, he was the one who baptized me. When I got engaged at 29, he was the one my wife asked to officiate. When my daughter was born, he was the first person outside the family to visit her at the hospital. Pastor Michael is 74 now, still emails me every Friday morning. He signs his emails, Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpening iron, so man sharpening the countenance of his friend. Pastor Michael was Psalm 68:5 for me for 22 years. The consistency was the fathering. The consistency was the specific presence a father was supposed to provide. Coach Williams coached football at my high school from 2004 to 2018. He treated every kid on the team like the kid was his own son. When I broke my ankle sophomore year, thought my season was over, Coach Williams came to the hospital that night. He sat with me and my mother for 3 hours. He came to the house the next week to make sure I was doing my rehab. He didn't have to do any of that, he did it because that's who he was. Coach Williams was Psalm 68:5 and a whistle and a sideline. He was one of the men God used to father me when the man who was supposed to father me wasn't there. God showed up instead through the men he put in my path. God showed up instead. Uncle Ronald taught me the math of being a man, how to fix things, how to work hard. God showed up instead. Pastor Michael was the yardstick I used to know what being a father meant. God showed up instead. Coach Williams gave the actual dent in the wall of my life that a father was supposed to make. God showed up instead. The community was the actual take. Uncle Ron, Pastor Michael, Coach Williams. 3 men, 12, 22, and 14 years of consistency. The chair wasn't empty, it just had different men in it. God showed up instead. The album owes him by name. My son is 1 year old. He can say dada, and he says it constantly. Every morning when he wakes up, he says dada. Every time he sees me come home from work, he says dada. Every night at bedtime, he says dada. And every time he says it, I remember something. I remember that I never said that word. I never had a dada to say the word to. And my son is saying the word 40 times a day to me. And every time he says it's something to me, rewires. Something in me learns what the word actually means. Not by receiving it from a father, by hearing it directed. They teach me by a son who has never doubted I'd answer. That's how the chain breaks in real time. Not through therapy alone, not through prayer alone. Through my son saying dada and me answering. Every single time he says it, that's the specific mechanism the chain breaks by my answering. The presence I never had is the presence I get to be. And every time I answer, I am undoing something my father did to me by not answering. My son will know my voice. My son will never wonder where I am. My son will never save a chair for me at his graduation. My son will never pay for coffee for a stranger who calls himself my father. Will know my voice from the day he can hear. My son will hear me sing to him. My son will hear me pray with him. My son will hear me apologize to him. My son will hear me tell him I love him 1,000 times before he can speak. And by the time he can speak, he will know what a father is, because I am building the definition through my presence. Yeah. Every night I put my son to bed, I sing to him. I don't have a good singing voice, he doesn't know that yet. I sing him Jesus loves me, I sing him the blessing. I sing him a song I made up when he was 2 months old. And every night for the last year I have sung to him, and he falls asleep hearing my voice. And every night when I close the door to his room, I stand in the hallway for a second and I think about the fact that my father never sang to me. And I think about the fact that I don't remember the sound of my father's voice, and my son will remember mine. And that is the actual gospel operating in real time. The father of the fatherless is teaching the fatherless son how to father his own son through the specific act of singing to him at bedtime. That is Psalm 68:5, not as a theological abstraction. Psalm 68:5 as the actual thing my son will grow up hearing. And when my son is 34 and someone asks him about his father, he will not have to say, I don't know. He will say, my father sang to me every night until I was old enough to sing back. My son will know my voice. My son will never wonder where I am. My son will hear me pray with him.
Son will hear me apologize to him.
My son will hear me tell him I love him 1,000 times before he can speak.
And by the time he can speak,
He will know what a father is, because I am building the definition through my presence. Where was my father? Was track 1. My son will know. My voice is track 7. The album is the answer. The answer is not one moment. The answer is 34 years of God fathering me through the men who showed up. And now my turn to show up for the next generation. The chain breaks here.
and my son will know.